Oi girls and boys and everything in between, it's Ace Trainer Liam, and today I'm continuing my series where I go through each of the 18 Pokemon types and let you know which are my top 10 favorites within each of those types. As I've said in each of the previous episodes of this series, of course, I'm going through these because I haven't talked about my opinions on these topics for over 2 years, so obviously things have changed. I've grown as a person, I've made mistakes, I've used Pokemon that I don't like, I've used Pokemon that I like, blah blah blah. All that, you know the deal if you've watched any of these before. And if this is your first time watching one of these videos, why don't you subscribe? You might enjoy the rest of the content on the channel, I'm just saying. So of course, if you didn't get it from the title, today we're going to be looking at the top 10 grass type Pokemon. Of course, it's an opinion video, it's my opinion. I don't really like the grass type, if I'm honest. Like, it's probably my least favorite type, because whenever I think of Pokemon to put in a team, if someone says, hey, what about a grass type team? I'm like, there aren't that many that I really like that much, to be honest. So this is going to be an interesting one, to be honest, because this was a difficult list to put together, but I think I finally have rounded down the top 10 grass type Pokemon as chosen by yours truly. Let's get to it. Number 10, Mega Abomasnow. Now this thing is your typical bulky bruiser. It's absolutely ginormous. It's just terrifying, intimidating. With it being kind of on all fours, it looks like it's about to absolutely... I don't think I can say that in a video, but I'm sure some of you got the gist of what I was going to say. And this Pokemon does have fantastic stats as well, but of course, you'd kind of expect that from a Mega Evolution. You don't normally expect a Mega Evolution to have lackluster stats. Really, realistically. And the thing I love about this Pokemon is it just does everything that it's supposed to do. It's there for a reason. It's there to be a big, hulking bruiser, albeit a slow one, that can just absolutely clean house. And of course, it has the Snow Warning ability, so it brings the hail for extra chip damage every turn. It's got a lot of things going for it, except the fact that it has 7 weaknesses. That to me is a little bit of overkill, and it's the beginning of why I don't tend to like grass type Pokemon. Number 9, Cacturne. Arguably this is one of the creepiest Pokemon in the entire Pokemon universe. It's just uncomfortable to look at. I don't know if it's because maybe it's a little too humanoid, although it's supposed to look like a scarecrow. Scarecrows generally look like farmers, so it's got that whole creepy, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe going on. I just think it's a very uncomfortable Pokemon to look at, and it goes from being kind of cute with Cacnea to this old thing, and I just think that's just an absolutely terrifying evolution. It's not without its downsides though. I mean, it's got absolutely bugger all in terms of defenses. Like, it's really difficult to build, I mean, it's nearly impossible to build a bulky Cacturne. It's almost impossible because it's got such low defenses and not even great HP. On top of that, it's 4 times weak to bugs, so this thing can go down to a single U-turn from a weak Pokemon at that. But I can't argue the fact that it does look so cool, and it's so sinister, and it's so downright creepy. Number 8, Gogo. This is the Pokemon that I'm going to praise in this video, the one that is a typical example of a perfect Pokemon in my opinion, because it looks like an animal, but at the same time, you can look at Gogo and you can go, hey, that looks like a Pokemon, because it is. It just works so perfectly. It looks like a goat, but it also looks like a goat from the Pokemon world. It's absolutely brilliant. It's so well designed. I really, really love it. I love the idea that you can ride it as well, and I look forward to maybe in a future Let's Go game, or maybe in the Gen 8 games, we might be able to ride on Gogo once again, but not just be a weird gimmick thing in Lumiose City. But battle-wise, this Pokemon has cool abilities. It gets Sap Sipper, so its attack is raised if it's hit with a grass-type move, although granted, how many people make that mistake of hitting Gogo with a grass-type move? And I know some of you are going to say, but what about if you switch in Gogo when someone's using a grass-type move? But people don't tend to use grass-type moves on you if they know that you've got a Gogo in the back waiting to switch in. So it's one of those abilities that's kind of predictable. But it also gets Grass Pelt, which is a really cool ability that not many people tend to remember, which raises Gogo's defense stat by 50% if grassy terrain is in effect. Obviously, it means you've got to activate grassy terrain, which Gogo can learn through breeding in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but it's not one of those abilities that you absolutely bank on. I mean, it's very unlikely that you'd have a Gogo on the same team as, say, Tapu Bulu, who can automatically bring grassy terrain, because why would you want that much of a poison weakness on your team? You've already got Tapu Bulu, who's 4 times weak to poison. Why are you bringing in a Gogo as well? It's just a risky, risky play, especially when there's a lot of Mega Charizard Y around lately. Yeah, Gogo's not the greatest battler right now, but it can be built effectively and it can be used effectively in kind of an anything goes scenario, and it's still amazing to look at. So well done, Gogo. You're a great one, mate. Number 7, Ludicolo. This one's just absolutely bags of fun. I have a soft spot for Ludicolo. I had one on my, I think it was my all water types team that just absolutely cleaned house half the time because of Swift Swim, because Swift Swim's such a useful ability, and Ludicolo can be built around Swift Swim so well and so effectively that its Hydro Pump can just murder, it can use Ice Beam, it's just absolutely great. It's a fantastic counter to a lot of other grass type Pokemon, even though it does have the water typing as well. It just seems to work really, really well. I've had loads and loads of fun using Ludicolo. It's loads of fun to look at, it's smiley, it's happy, it's jolly, it's how I want to feel every single day. I'm a bit jealous of Ludicolo for that, but also I love it for that very reason, that it's just spreading positivity, and we need a little bit more of that in the world. Number 6, Plume. This one's not going to be a particularly long one because basically with Plume, I think it's adorable. It's really cute to look at. Apart from the fact that, you know, with things like Effect Spore, it can give me a deadly disease just by touching it, and it's very, very poisonous. I do adore its happy little face. I mean, a Ditto face Plume is probably better. I've seen the plushes of like Ditto face Gloom, and I just want one of Plume. Plume's fantastic. It's got great special attack. It can be made bulky if you want it to, so it's got some survivability. It can take advantage of its Effect Spore ability to really disrupt opponents, but mostly it's on this list because it's cute. And if you got a problem with that, whoops. Number 5, Breloom. Now, Breloom is a Pokemon that I talked about quite a bit more in my top 10 fighting types video, so if you want to go head over and watch that, you can find out all about why I love Breloom. But briefly, I'm just going to quickly explain. It's the fact that it's absolutely adorable. It's one of those where it's kind of cute but kind of cool, but also it's got a great selection of moves. It's got a great move pool, which means that it can be very, very useful for things like shiny hunting and just in battle in general. And it's all round a fantastic Pokemon, but honestly, go watch my top 10 fighting types if you haven't already to find out just why I love Breloom. Number 4, Executor. This Pokemon is derpy, it's stupid, it's got a fantastic Alolan form, which I really do like, but I want to focus more on the Cantonian form because it's the original, and in my opinion, it's the better version, and it's so fun to use in battle. I've used it a lot with Harvest and an Ayapapa Berry, which is basically, it will get down to about a quarter HP, restore its HP with the berry, then the Harvest ability has a 50% chance of activating at the end of the turn, so kind of, you know, sometimes every turn, although sometimes every other turn, it will restore its berry so it can last even longer, constantly restoring its HP. If you build a bulky Executor, it's so much fun to use. It irritates opponents so much, and it can slowly chip away at opponents. I mean, moves like Psychic, which reduces the opponent's special defense, you're slowly building up the power of your moves and destroying your opponent while they're getting frustrated because they just can't knock you out. It's really, really fun to use. And not only that, I have a soft spot for Executor as well because of its part in March of the Executor Squad, which is one of my favorite episodes of the old anime. I mean, arguably that episode's one of my favorites because it's the one where Charmander evolves into Charmeleon, but that's not the point. The point is Executor is a big part of that episode, and I absolutely love this Pokemon in general. Number 3, Shineotic. This Pokemon has such a simple design, but it's a really cool one. And I'd argue it's one of the better Generation 7 designs. We got a few decent Pokemon in Generation 7, but Shineotic's one of those really, really cool designs. I like the way it's kind of a little bit of a hippie, kind of a little bit of a reference to maybe some kind of magic mushrooms going on. I don't know, but it's just really, really, really amazing. And I love its little face. I have this thing about really simple faces on Pokemon just make me laugh. And I don't know why, but it just adds to the mystique of Shineotic because you don't quite know what's going on behind those eyes. Not to mention it's got a fantastic signature move in the form of Strength Sap, which basically reduces the opponent's attack stat by 1 stage, and then depending on what the opponent's attack stat actually was before you use that move, it restores that much of Shineotic's HP, which is absolutely incredible. So say you've got a Pokemon that's been bothering you because it's been raising its attack stat, you can slowly chop it down but get so much HP back as well. It's a really useful move and quite often will restore almost all, if not all, of Shineotic's HP, which is fantastic. It's just an absolutely great both defensive and disruptive move. It's like having Recover but then still being able to damage your opponent's method of attack at the same time. That's really, really cool, and props to Game Freak for making such an interesting Pokemon in the form of Shineotic. Number 2, Tropius. Everybody's favorite tree dinosaur. A lot of you who watched my old Let's Plays will remember my absolutely beloved Trinosaur that was my Tropius. What a time that was. And I have just come to love this Pokemon. I really don't think I had much knowledge of Tropius before I used it in-game in that particular playthrough, and I've just grown to love it so much. Like, let's face it, it's got pretty mediocre stats. It's got pretty poor attack, if I'm honest. There's not a lot of damage that Tropius tends to deal. However, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's one of my favorite Pokemon designs because it's just so interesting. The idea of an actual dinosaur, like, you know, you get a lot of dinosaurs that are herbivores. How many dinosaurs do you get that are made of herbs? You know what I mean? How many dinosaurs are made of actual vegetation? It's a really cool concept, and it was such a simple idea. It's one of those Pokemon where anyone could have thought of that. Anybody could have thought of making a dinosaur that is part plant, but they made Tropius so perfect. They took the design that anyone could have thought of and they manufactured it into something absolutely amazing. I really do love Tropius. I think it's one of my favorite designs. Maybe that'll be a video in the future. My top 10 Pokemon designs just in general, but Tropius is definitely on that list because it's really, really incredible. Number 1, Victreebel. Victreebel's been my favorite grass type ever since Generation 1. There's a whole heap of nostalgia bias in here, more than likely, but I've just always loved this pitcher plant Pokemon. It was definitely on my first ever team that got to the Hall of Fame because I loved it so much. I loved its cry, that kind of it was mental, it was great, fantastic to use, so much fun. I love that it gets things like chlorophyll where it can increase its speed, make it that little bit more deadly, and its hidden ability is gluttony, so it can take advantage of held berries earlier. It's got some great stats, it's got some great abilities, it's got a great evolutionary family, a cool design. In the Gen 1 anime, it was an absolute staple of James's team, even if it was just a comedy role, but it was still a fantastic Pokemon. Really, really love Victreebel. I can't really fault it at all. It's one of my favorites. I have an amazing plush of it. Wait, hang on. I have an amazing plush of it that was made by a fan called Mads a very, very long time ago, and I still have it, and I still treasure it because it's like the best custom plush I think I've ever been sent. It's so, so cool. And I just can't get enough of Victreebel. If I have to pick a grass-type Pokemon at any point, Victreebel's the first one that pops into my mind. Victreebel, you're amazing. Don't ever change. So that's my list of my top 10 grass-type Pokemon. Make sure you let me know down below what are your top 10 grass-type Pokemon. And of course, explain to everybody why. Don't just tell us the list. Let us know why you enjoy them. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and of course subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can pledge to my Patreon. That's patreon.com/AceTrainerLiam. And until next time, I am Ace Trainer Liam. Keep on training.